Hello, everyone. I apologize, it's a little dark. I am recording in the evening, so bear with me. So, what we're going to be doing today is just going over how to get everything set up so that when you go to finish your final project, you have a good foundation on which to build upon. So, what we'll be doing exactly is going through lesson 4 to show how to get your development environments set up, how to get your sugar configured, as well as, of course, your UI, which is what you're going to be using to mint your NFTs. So now we're going to do this in two parts. In this first part, I'm going to show you how to do this with Gitpod. And then in the second part, I'm going to show you how to use VS Code to do it, just in case you prefer to do it locally. So we will go ahead and click Open in Gitpod, which brings us to this window on the right. So the first thing that it's going to do is run all of the setup for us, which is nice. So this is installing the Solana CLI as well as the Sugar CLI. Okay, now that that initial setup is complete, what it's going to ask us is the release version of Sugar that we want to use. You can see we're presented with two options. The first one is to use the newest version, but we're actually going to be using Candy Machine version 2, so we will select the legacy version, and our Sugar is now all set up. So we'll go ahead and configure our wallet, which is going to be used with our minting. The first thing that we'll need to do is to generate a key pair. So we'll just copy paste this command in here. And as if you want to use a passphrase with this, we'll just skip that part and hit enter. And now you can see that we have a wallet that's been generated for us, and this is the public key for that wallet. Now, these steps unfortunately are out of order. Hopefully, when you're watching this in the future, it is in the correct order. In the meantime, I apologize for that. Because obviously, before you can do the airdrop, you have to set up your connection to the DevNet and everything. So that is what we're going to do. We will set up our Solana CLI to use that new wallet that we've created by pasting this command. And you can see that the key pair path has been set to that wallet.json file that we've created. The other thing that we have to change, of course, is connect to the DevNet. The initial value is to connect to mainnet, which you definitely don't want to do. So we'll just copy this. And now we can see that it is configured to interact with DevNet. Now with that out of the way, cross our fingers as we do our airdrop, because this does like to rate limit us. And we'll just do one. This actually doesn't take very much Solana at all. As we can see, the first attempt failed. If that happens, you basically just have to keep trying until it eventually works. Alternatively, you can Google for a Solana faucet. There are some websites that will also provide you with airdrop Sol, but if you do it through the CLI, it's usually a little bit more convenient. So we have our wallet set up. We have our initial Solana that we're going to need to do our minting. So we will continue to the next page. Now this is about the config file. This is already going to be set up for you, and this is actually a better config file as well. Again, hopefully in the future, if you're watching this, this has been updated as well. In the meantime, just use the one that's provided to you in the files, okay? If you're in Gitpod, this is going to be here. If you're working locally in VS Code, when you clone the repo, you'll also have this, so no worries, okay? Now, since we have this open, we might as well initialize these values that it's asking for, which is the treasury account and the creator address. So for those, we're going to use that wallet address that we just created. Now you can either scroll up and get it that way, or if you just type Solana address, it'll provide that public address for you that way as well. And then you just copy it with Control C and paste it with Control V. And with that, your config is done. And now we get to the fun stuff, right? Now we're going to actually start deploying our candy machine. Now, the first thing that we're going to want to do is run this sugar validate command. What that's going to do is check all of our image files as well as our metadata JSON files to make sure that they're all formatted correctly before we upload them. So we'll just paste that, and we can see our files are looking good. Now that we've confirmed that those are okay, we'll go ahead and upload them so that they can be used by our candy machine. Okay, upload is complete. And now we deploy our candy machine, which is going to be sugar deploy. Okay, and now we have our candy machine. Now, when you deploy this, you do get a candy machine ID here. This is going to be pretty important when you go to configure your UI. Now, you could scroll up again in the future to get this value, but it is also stored in this cache file. So if you do find yourself needing it and you just can't find it, click this file, and then this very first entry at the top is that candy machine ID that you're going to need. So now that we've deployed, we want to verify that it has deployed successfully. So this is just going to check our config file. And we can see that it is successful. And now we can see our candy machine at this link. And just for giggles, we'll go ahead and do that, just to triple verify. And there it is, in all of its glory, our candy machine, along with some of the future mints if you mint it. Okay, perfect. So we're not going to run the mint command because at this point you've already done that. And also we want to mint this through the UI, right? So let's skip that. And at this point you're at the project stage, right? And so now we're going to be setting up our UI. And in that project page, it gives you a link to this guide for how to set it up. And if we scroll up a little bit, we see the first thing that we need to do is to clone the repo of the UI. So we'll copy that and paste it. Then the next thing we need to do is cd into that folder. This is because there's a little bit of setup that we need to do. And if we're not in that folder, it's just not going to work. The next thing it tells us is that we need to set up our environmental variables. Now that is going to be in that folder that we just created here, this .env.example. It tells us we need to rename that to just .env. If you don't, it's simply not going to work. So make sure that you do that. And the next steps here are pretty obvious. So here it's asking for the candy machine ID of the candy machine that we just deployed. And again, we can find that in our cache file. So we'll just copy this and paste it just over this completely. Now it does have this RPC set by default, but it's not a very good one, to be honest. So what we're going to do is replace that with a standard devnet. So I'm just going to get that from my config since it's right here by typing Solana config get. And we can just copy paste this RPC URL here over this one, including the H, of course. And with that, our config for the UI is now complete as well. The next step is to run yarn install. That's going to install all of the dependencies for our UI. Again, if you're not in this folder and you try to run this command, it's just not going to work. You're going to get a bunch of errors. Now, while that is downloading, there is one additional step that we have to take because, again, this is a bit of a dated deployment. On the project page, it tells you to copy paste the following for your. The reason we need to do this is because this uses an outdated version of OpenSSL. And so when you run this, if you don't do this step, you'll actually get what's called a digital envelope error. So to avoid that, we go to our package.json. We go here to our start command, and then we'll just completely paste over that. And again, if you look at it, you can see all it's doing is just setting it to use that legacy OpenSSL file that we need. And then, of course, the start command that we need as well. Okay, now that we have finished downloading the dependencies, we can go ahead and run yarn start. This will begin the compilation process for our UI. Now, this probably will take a minute or two, depending on your machine. So if you like, this would be a good time to get a coffee or a water if you're running this, because this will take a moment. While this is running, there is actually one additional step that we need to do, which is to set up our Phantom wallet to work with our UI. I already have it set to development mode. Now, if you don't have it in development mode already yourself, all you got to do is click into settings, go down to developer settings, and then just click this toggle to put it into DevNet mode. The next thing that we need to do is take this wallet that we've created in our program here and put it into our Phantom wallet so we can use it to interact with our program. Now, if you already have a dev wallet set up with Solana in it, you can just use that. That's totally fine. This is just an extra step in case you want to use the same wallet, just so everything is consistent. To do that, you just click the Add Wallet button here, click Import Private Key. Now, the key that you're going to use for this is stored in the wallet.json file. You'll just copy this whole array here, and we'll just call this Candy Wallet. You can call it whatever you like. Paste that array in, click Import, and you are good to go. It's easy as that. So now it's time to see our Candy machine in all of its glory. Now, if you don't have the window open that it opened for you earlier, that's fine. All you got to do is hover over this, click Control Click. That'll reopen it for you. If you try to just type in localhost, it's not going to work because this is in the cloud. So then we just click Connect Wallet. It's going to ask us to connect to the application. And now the Mint button is available to us. It shows that we have 10 NFTs remaining at a price of 0.01. We'll go ahead and click the Mint button here. If you get an error or anything pop up here, it's likely because of the DevNet. Just keep trying. It will definitely work eventually. Click Confirm on the transaction, and we can see that we have minted an NFT. Opening our wallet here, clicking on the second icon on the bottom, we can see we indeed have our NFT. So with that, you now have a working Candy machine using Solana to pay for your NFTs and print them out. Now, after this step, when you go to set this up for your SPL token, there's already a lot of hints kind of littered throughout the course on how to do this, as well as on the project page. But to make this even that much clearer, the only thing that you're going to need to do is, well, deploy your SPL token if you haven't done that already. That's going to be very important. But after that, what you're going to need to do is make this null, because we're no longer going to be accepting Solana payment for this, right? We're going to be using our own SPL token. So you can clear that out. And then for SPL token account, This works the same as a treasury account. This is just the account that's going to accept the payment funds. So that is going to be the same wallet. So you would just paste it in here, right? But paste it in correctly, of course, very important. And then finally, the only thing you have to do is fill out the data for your SPL token. This is going to be the mint address of your token. You'll paste that in there, save, and then if you start your UI again, you will be able to mint with your custom SPL token. So with that, it should make everything hopefully a lot clearer to you as far as how to accomplish everything. And as promised, I'm now going to show how to do this with VS Code. If you don't care about how to do it with VS Code, you can feel free to check out at this point and finish the project on your own. If you want to see how to do it with VS Code, then come along with me and we'll just return here to the very beginning and open up our VS Code now. Okay, so the first thing that you'll want to do is to install all of these dependencies if you haven't already done that. So you need Git, you'll need Node, Yarn, TS Node because we're using TypeScript, the Solana CLI, of course, and then the Sugar CLI. Clicking these links will take you to all the instructions for how to install these tools. Once you have them installed, the first thing that you're going to want to do is to clone the project repo. Now, I already have it typed in here, so I'm just going to press Enter. So now that we have cloned that, we'll go ahead and enter that program, or that folder, I should say. Okay, so just like before, what we're going to need to do is set up a wallet. Now, I already have one set up, so I'm actually going to skip this part, but it actually works exactly the same. So what you want to do is run this command here, and then set up your config to use the devnet. I'll go ahead and confirm that I am still set up to use the devnet, which I am here, which you can see. And then, yeah, once you have your Solana CLI set to use your wallet, and you have the devnet set up, then you just do the airdrop to yourself. From there, you can proceed to the next steps. Again, you already have this config here, so you don't need to worry about trying to copy and paste this. This is actually going to work just fine, actually better for you, okay? Again, hopefully at this point in the future, that is already updated. Okay, so here we are now with our sugar commands once again. And we're going to follow the exact same process. So we'll go ahead and start with sugar validate. To again, make sure that all of our image files and our JSON files are as they should be, that they're all formatted correctly. They are, so we'll go ahead now and upload those to the internets. Oh, yes, so I'm getting this error because I did not set up my wallet addresses. So I'm just going to type in Solana address to get my public address, which is this here. Control C to copy. Paste that in. Save. And now we should be able to upload. Okay. So now all of our image files are uploaded. We can go ahead and deploy our Candy machine by running sugar deploy. Okay, now that that has finished deploying, we'll go ahead and run the sugar verify command. That's just going to make sure that the config file for our Candy machine is set up correctly. Now that it has confirmed that the config file is set up correctly, we can see that it is verified, we're good to go, and we can again view our deployed Candy machine at this link. Again, we're going to skip this mint because we're doing something so much cooler. We're using that UI. So again, at this point, you would now be on that project page. with the link to the guide for setting up your Candy Machine UI. So just like before, we're just going to start by cloning that repo into our project here, and then running the cd command to go into that folder, because we do have some setup that we're going to need to do there. And just like before, we need to make sure that we rename this to be just .env, or else it is not going to work. Here you can see it's asking for the Candy Machine ID for the machine that we just deployed. Easiest way to find that, again, is to just go into your cache file, cache.json, and that's going to be that very first value here. So we just copy that, paste that here. Again, we're also going to want to change this to be the regular DevNet RPC host, because this one does not really work well at all. So we're just going to do the Solana config get command again, just to make this easy. Copy this URL, and then just paste it over this one here. Once that's saved, we'll go ahead and start installing our dependencies with yarn install. This will take a moment, because there are quite a few that it has to set up. While it is doing that, just like with the git pod, we have to alter our start command in our package.json file. This is because of that older open SSL file that we need to use for this. This is the start command that we need to modify. Again, on the project page, this is provided for you to where you can just copy paste it. So again, just copy it, paste it over, and that's just telling it to use that legacy provider and then to start it as normal. And perfect timing. So now that we have set up our start command, we can now execute it by running yarn start. This command will also take a little while. So now while this is setting up, if you already saw this in the Gitpod part, then you already know it. But if you didn't see this part, one thing that you're going to need to do is set up your wallet to, one, use the DevNet. So you just click into settings, go into developer settings, and then just make sure this is toggled for testnet mode. Once you do that, what you're going to want to do, unless you want to use a wallet you already have set up here with Solana, but if you want to use the same wallet that you have set up in your Solana CLI, all you got to do is go to this plus symbol here, click import private key. It's going to ask you for the name that you want to use. So again, you can use whatever you want. Monies, or not enough space. I will just go with that. Now to find the private key for your wallet on VS Code, what you'll need to do is type Solana config get again. That's going to show your key pair path. Hover over it and do control click. Now that file is open to you, and this whole thing in the array is your private key. So you just copy that, paste it in here. Now we're going to get an error because I already have this imported, but for you, if you have not imported it already, this would show your public address here instead of this red error text. And then you just click import, at which point it would be imported for you and ready to go. So it has now compiled successfully. We'll go ahead and hover over this, control click to open it, expand this a little bit, click connect wallet, and of course make sure that you're on the correct wallet. For me, that's going to be CLI wallet. Sometimes you may need to refresh. especially if you just change the wallet. Okay, we are now connected, so we'll go ahead and click Mint. Again, if you get an error here, it's just going to be because of the DevNet. Just keep clicking the Mint button until it works. Confirm. And there you go. We have now minted a NFT using Sol with VS Code. Awesome. Now again, for the final part of your project, you're just going to be taking this and changing it to use the SPL token that you created earlier in the course. You're going to be using that token to pay for the NFTs instead of Solana. And again, just in case you missed it in the Gitpod tutorial, what you'll need to do that is to go into your config file, and you'll want to essentially copy this and paste it here and just make this null. You may actually be able to leave that there. I'm not sure, but we'll just leave it null for now. So SPL token account is just the account that's going to be receiving the SPL tokens that are used in the minting process. So what people pay is going to be going to this wallet. And then the last thing that you need to configure is your SPL token. Now this is going to be the mint address of your token. So if you have your token already deployed, all you'd have to do is just go to your token on Solscan or whatever browser you like to use, and then get that mint address, paste that in here, and at that point you are good to go. You just run yarn start again, and you'll be minting with your custom SPL token. So now with that, you know how to set this up with both Gitpod and VS Code, and this should provide you with a very solid foundation for your project. Hopefully this makes everything clear as far as how to get this set up and how to go about completing your final project. But of course, if you have any further questions, we are there for you. Just reach out in Discord and we'll be happy to help you, okay? So with that, good luck with your final project of the course. I'm sure you'll kill it, and I'll see you on the other side.